You feel it right now, don't you?
Yeah, that knot in your stomach.
Exactly. That anxiety when you think about growing old. You look at your savings, you look at your career, and you just wonder why.
Right. Why has the promise of a peaceful retirement turned into a total illusion?
I mean, it used to be a guarantee.
Hmm.
You work hard, you clock out at 60 or 65, and you enjoy your life.
But now it feels like a luxury most people will never, ever reach.
And most of you listening probably assume it's just bad luck. Like, oh, the economy had a few bad recessions.
Or inflation is high.
Yeah, or we're just generally poorer than our parents. But what if I told you that retirement didn't just slip away?
It wasn't lost like a set of keys.
No, it was systematically dismantled.
Systematically. And we have the receipts to prove it.
That's our mission for today's deep dive. We're cracking open a massive 40-year authoritative study.
Compiled by economists James Banks, Carl Emmerson, and Gemma Tetlow.
And look, we're not going to use any boring academic jargon today. We are looking at cold, hard UK labor force survey data from 1975 all the way to 2015.
Because the true answer to why you are destined to work until you die is hidden right there in the demographic and economic codes.
It's a total slap in the face.
Yeah.
It completely shatters the narrative we've been fed.
So to understand how we got trapped in this endless future of work, we actually have to look backward.
Right, to the golden age, the disappearing and reappearing golden age.
Because you probably think we've, always been on a steady march toward later retirement.
It just creeps up a little bit every year.
Exactly. But you'd be wrong. If you look at the cold numbers, from 1975 to the mid-1990s, the employment rate for men aged 55 to 64 literally fell off a cliff.
It was a massive U-shaped curve.
Right. Society at the time actually thought we were entering this utopia of early retirement.
People were checking out early, hitting the golf course.
But then, in 1995, a silent, dramatic U-turn happened.
A bottom of the U.
Exactly. The line violently spiked back up. Older men just flooded back into the workforce.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because, wait, why did they suddenly come back?
That's the million-dollar question.
Like, did they just get bored playing golf?
Yeah.
Or did the money run out?
They definitely didn't just get a sudden burst of work ethic, I can tell you that.
So what happened?
The environment changed. The bottom of that U-curve in 1995 was the exact inflection point where the rules of survival began to shift.
So it wasn't a choice. It was a requirement.
The system demanded them back. But if you think the men's return was just some weird economic blip, you really need to see what the women were doing.
Oh, man, the women's graph. It is terrifying.
The men's graph is a U-shape.
Yeah.
They left and came back.
Right. But the women's graph, it's an unstoppable rocket launch.
From the mid-1980s onward, the employment rate for women in their 50s didn't dip at all.
Not even a little bit. It just climbed like a staircase.
Up and up. By 2015, the employment rate for women aged 55 to 59 reached this absolutely unprecedented, record-breaking height.
So what does this all actually mean? Because people might just say, oh, that's just feminism, that's gender equality working.
Which is the easy, comfortable answer.
Yeah, but this feels like something much heavier.
Because it is. This isn't just a simple story of social progress. It reveals a completely reprogrammed social machine.
Women were being locked into the labor market in a way history had never seen.
The household needed the money. The economy evolved to require dual incomes deep into old age.
Now, a really common assumption here is that, well, people are working longer because they're healthier.
Right, the medical miracle argument.
Exactly. We've got better medicine, better diet, so naturally people can work another decade.
Prepare to be slapped in the face by reality.
Because the data ruthlessly pierces that delusion.
Over these exact decades, a 60-year-old man's life expectancy jumped by 7 entire years.
7 years. And a woman's jumped by 5 years.
And here is the brutal truth. The proportion of people who self-reported being in good health barely moved an inch.
It's like getting a software update on your phone.
Right.
It makes your battery last 7 hours longer, but the screen is completely shattered.
That's a perfect analogy.
You're alive longer, but you aren't functioning any better.
We added years to life, but a massive chunk of those are not good health years. You're dealing with chronic pain, fatigue, arthritis.
So health is absolutely not the driving force pushing them into the office.
Got it all.
Something else is forcing them to drag their imperfect, aging bodies back to work.
Right. And if it isn't health, maybe it's education.
Oh, this is the academic lie.
The misunderstood education lie. Experts used to peddle this comforting piece of common sense. Old people today have more university degrees, so naturally they stay in desk jobs longer.
It was a statistical lie.
A total lie. The researchers actually tracked the low education cohort.
These are the people who dropped out of school at age 14 or 15.
The ones society basically wrote off as manual laborers.
But the data reveals something totally anti-common sense. Over 30% of these early dropouts secretly acquired A-level equivalent or higher qualifications later in life. Wait, hold on. So the 14-year-old dropout the statisticians were ignoring actually held high-level certificates by the time they were 50.
Exactly. Almost a third of them.
But why? Why go back to school at 40?
Because of the survival imperative. They didn't go back to school for fun. They didn't want to read poetry.
Right.
They were driven by a brutal new ecosystem that demanded relentless upskilling just to survive.
Because the factories closed. The manual jobs vanished.
And if you didn't evolve, you starved.
But why did the ecosystem suddenly demand so much more? Why couldn't they just retire on what they had?
To understand that, you have to follow the money straight to the corporate ledgers.
The rule makers' hidden calculations.
Capital quietly changed the rules of the game.
Decades ago, you had a defined benefit pension, a DB pension.
You retired exactly on time, you got paid a guaranteed amount.
And if you worked late, you were actually financially penalized.
Right, there was an actuarial reduction. They punished you for staying. It was a very tight schedule to keep the labor force moving.
But then, capital shifted to defined contribution pensions, the DC plan.
You only get out exactly what you put in, plus whatever the stock market decides to give you.
They essentially demolished the finish line.
Completely.
There used to be a concrete wall called retirement. Now it's just a treadmill with no off switch.
If you step off, you starve.
By removing the penalty for working late and shifting the risk entirely onto you, the individual, corporations, structurally ensured you could never afford to stop.
The company is totally safe. You take all the risk.
And the corporations didn't do this alone, did they?
No, the government stepped in to remove the final barriers.
Taking off the tight headband.
State power joined the squeeze. What happened in 1989 unleashed an absolute tidal wave of elderly labor.
Before 1989, there was an earnings test.
Right. If an old person worked, the government literally docked their state pension.
It was a financial tight headband. They punished you for hustling.
But in 1989, they abolished this rule.
And what happened?
The labor supply of men aged 65 to 69 instantly exploded.
It's pure behavioral economics. The moment the government stopped punishing them for working, they flooded the factories and offices, even in their late 60s.
It proves that people will work until their dying breath if the financial incentives demand it. The government simply took off the leash.
So the men were reacting to policy. But women's fates were actually sealed by a butterfly effect that started 30 years earlier.
The hidden thread of women's fate. For women, the gears of this trap started turning a long time ago. Look at this terrifying butterfly effect in the data.
Women born in the 1950s had a massive childbirth dip.
They dropped out of the workforce in their 20s to raise kids.
But women born in the 1960s, the line is practically flat.
They never left the office. Their entire youth was bound to the desk.
So if you never step off the gas in your 20s and 30s, what does that mean when you hit 55?
Well, continuous participation in your youth fundamentally alters the end of your life cycle. You aren't the same type of older worker your mother was.
You have momentum.
You have the unstoppable experience snowball.
Right, because the 60s generation of women never hit pause. They built a terrifying snowball of leverage.
By the time these women hit 50 plus, they possessed an unprecedented amount of lifetime labor experience.
30 unbroken years.
Which gave them massive salary negotiation power and made them incredibly hard to replace, especially the highly educated ones.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because this is wild. They aren't poor grannies forced to go flip burgers to survive.
No, not at all.
They're trapped in a high-speed, high-stakes career machine. They can't stop because they are simply too valuable to the system.
It's a higher order trap. Success and continuous experience lock them into a perpetual cycle. The cost of leaving became mathematically too high.
Wow. And if the market trap wasn't enough, the government decided to run a brutal social experiment on them.
If you think the market forces are scary, look at what the state did next. It was a naked, forced social experiment.
Between 2010 and 2014, the government forcefully raised the female state pension age.
From 60 to 62.
And the immediate result?
The employment rate for 60 and 61-year-old women violently spiked by 6.3 percentage points.
Wait, They just moved the goalpost by 2 years, and the whole demographic instantly marched 2 years longer, like puppets on a string.
Yes. The data proves that human behavior exhibits terrifying resilience.
The absolute helplessness.
Exactly. The moment the systemic survival threshold is raised, we obey. We have no choice.
So millions of older people are back at work. But what are they doing? You probably think they're sweeping streets or greeting people at stores.
Think again. Not sweeping streets, but occupying the pyramid.
This is the ultimate myth. Older people re-entering the workforce are doing menial, bottom-tier jobs. The data completely obliterates this.
Between 1995 and 2015, the employment rate for 50 to 64-year-olds in professional, managerial, and technical roles didn't just grow.
It mutated.
Male employment in these elite roles jumped 8.7 percentage points.
And female employment violently surged by 13.6 percentage points. They didn't sink to the basement of the economy. They took the elevator straight up and fortified the penthouse.
They monopolized the upper middle tiers of the workplace pyramid. Their decades of experience translated directly into authority in prime positions.
But wait, the universe is a closed system, right? The law of equivalent exchange. If the old are occupying the top, what is happening to the young?
The silent defeat of the young.
One generation's relentless advance guarantees another generation's crushing retreat.
While the elderly were conquering management, the employment share for 20 to 49-year-olds in skilled non-manual jobs was steadily sliding downward.
So what does this all mean? Young people aren't poor because they buy too much avocado toast.
Right, that's a distraction.
They are poor because the high-value seats are literally occupied by people with 40 years of experience who refuse to die and refuse to retire.
The data validates this structural gridlock. The experienced, long-living predecessors are bottlenecking the ladder for the young.
And if you want proof of this generational defeat, you only have to look at one piece of paper.
The payslip, the final verdict on wealth flow.
The most brutal truth is always hidden in the wages. From 2003 to 2015, who actually beat inflation? The answer is a death sentence for youth.
The data drops the final verdict. Only the over 55, specifically the 65 to 69 cohort, saw their actual wages surge far past the rate of inflation.
While the actual wages of 20 to 39-year-olds steadily shrank, this completely reframes the generation gap. We aren't arguing about culture or work ethic. We are watching a silent, massive wealth transfer right in front of our eyes.
This wage data proves it is a systemic reallocation of capital. The old are accumulating more, the young are losing ground.
So let's put all the pieces of this massive puzzle together. The conspiracy of capital, lifespan, and power.
Now you can finally see the underlying code of how the world really works. It is a flawless three-part conspiracy.
Factor 1, biology. It gave us the lifespan to keep our bodies upright.
Factor 2, capital. It extracted the safety net, changing pensions from guaranteed payouts to endless personal risks.
A treadmill.
Right. And factor 3, state power. It removed the earnings limits and pushed back the legal retirement age.
It's the perfect storm. The body can take it, the corporation demands it, and the government enforces it.
This interlocking mechanism completely and permanently altered the distribution of wealth and workplace power in modern society.
So where does this leave you, the listener, as we look to tomorrow?
Future destiny and cycle. The old can't stop their march.
And the young can't even see the ladder.
Reflect on the historical baseline. Between the 1900 and 1935 cohorts, the proportion of life spent not working actually rose from 30% to 40%.
It looked like progress, like we were winning.
But now, that trend is reversing violently. We are giving that time back.
This is not just a dry academic report about British senior citizens. It is the ultimate preview of the human social structure in late-stage, globalized capitalism. We always think our generation will break the rules, will hack the system. But the truth is, the rules of our survival were written in demographic and profit codes before we were even born.
Which leaves us with a chilling question to mull over. The wealth and positions are currently held by a generation that rode the economic boom. But what happens when today's struggling 30-year-olds finally reach 65, stripped of pensions, stripped of assets, and facing a retirement age of 70?
Are we repeating history, or are we engineering a collapse we've never seen before?
The trap is perfectly set.
The rules are locked in. Keep your eyes open. Keep questioning the narrative they sell you about growing old. Think about your own place on this terrifying demographic ladder, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.